Well, for more on this and other international issues facing journalists, let's now welcome the lawyer representing the 4 detained filmmakers, Ian Mutiso. Ian, thank you so much for your time today. So according to a news article that I actually read up on about an hour ago, the 4 filmmakers have since been released following confirmation, of course, by the BBC that indeed they were not part or involved in the making of the Blood Parliament documentary. But what can you confirm to us at this stage? Firstly, what were they even charged with? And will you still pursue your charges, as earlier stated, against the police for confiscating their video as well as other equipment?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. And you're indeed right. Quite unfortunate what we have experienced, especially today on Press Freedom Day. And what I can be able to perhaps make clarification on is that these 4 journalists, the videographers, that were not at all involved in the making of the Blood Parliament documentary. And it's really a case where the police are intending to call a mistaken identity, but that does not excuse in the manner of which they have gone ahead and arrested these individuals, detained them without counsel present. They interrogated them and actually also went ahead and confiscated gadgets without obtaining a court order. So ideally, the abuse of freedom of expression and also the right of the media houses in Kenya, it seems it's a bit inconsequential, and it's unfortunate that we have had to experience that for the past 24 hours.
Absolutely. But I mean, Ian, there's also just a lot of missing details with this story. And pardon me if I keep urging for more details, but we need to just understand the context of this arrest. Surely it cannot just be because they worked on a specific documentary that exposed a certain conduct. What legal rights also generally do such journalists actually enjoy in terms of being accorded time to actually do their jobs without fear or intimidation? As you heard from the UN Secretary General there, we saw a similar expose on how gold is allegedly moved around by some high-ranking officials in Zimbabwe by Al Jazeera, but we've never seen or heard of such intimidation or arrests of those journalists.
Well, you're totally right, and it's unfortunate that right now in Kenya, especially a nation and a country whereby it espouses in strong human rights per se, we are the government is very eager to breach them at every single opportunity. What's concerning to me is that even despite the government being aware of the procedures that do exist in law, as far as getting to arrest, informing them the reasons for arrest, and also going ahead and obtaining court documents for them to be able to seize gadgets or information which are meant to be produced and obtained electronically, it seems that they don't even take into account the necessities of that existence. Well, also you can realize that in Kenya, as we speak right now, the press is a very good tool in informing people of their rights. And it's unfortunate that it had to go to the extent whereby a piece of our history on what occurred on 25th of June of last year is something whereby we are seeing censorship. It tells you that as Kenya, we're still fighting a regime whereby freedom of expression is a challenge for them to understand. And ideally, also, it makes me concerned for the true journalists who participated in this particular documentary, and also being able to adduce that electronic evidence to the BBC journalists for them to be able to create a genuine story which is captivating and which is informative. That makes me feel that we're in a space whereby one way or another we have to fight for the rights of every single Kenyan and per se every single journalist. We have to protect them at every single cost, and we are well prepared. The Law Society of Kenya is well prepared to take in that endeavor, and we're not going to shy away of making sure that happens.
I mean, but then, Ian, when it comes to journalistic ethics codes of conduct, as well as abiding by the law, right, what does international law then stipulate on such matters? Can a government or police of the country or people in question on the expose just arrest those journalists? And noteworthy, as we spoke about it earlier on, is that this also took place on Press Freedom Day. We have seen how journalists are being killed in the line of duty in conflict zones, but this exclusive right to provide and uncover hidden information and unethical conduct is part of our jobs. So how do we ensure this message actually reaches the relevant ears?
Well, we are not living in a bubble. Journalists in Kenya are regulated professionals. There is the Media Council of Kenya, which regulates the conduct of journalists in Kenya, and the media houses also have compliance handling procedures of which they ought to follow. Each, as we understand, the freedom of expression is not only limited, but it also has its own limit in the aspects of you cannot engage in matters of hate speech. There is nothing taken into account, such as the Blood Parliament documentary. That was not hate speech. That is already part of history. And in any case whereby a journalist does not follow due procedures as far as the code of conduct, then that is a separate issue. And as we are aware, in the world of AI, as the UN Secretary General has already spoken, we have to be aware that there is always misinformation, disinformation, and there's always way on how to mitigate those factors. The government in its sense needs to find a way on how to be able to appreciate that there is bodies in Kenya and all over the world that regulates media houses, regulates journalists and how they're supposed to conduct themselves. So in essence, let's not assume that they do not know exactly what they're supposed to do. Journalists know exactly what they're supposed to do. Media houses know exactly what they're supposed to do. And the government knows exactly what they're supposed to do. And that's the end of it.
A very quick one, Ian, what I still have. You understand, according to the latest reports, that the screening was actually stopped at the last minute under pressure from the government, according to a statement from the BBC. So what is the latest in that regard now?
Well, in my view, is that the content which is already there on YouTube, it's readily accessible, it's readily available on the internet. As far as censorship is concerned, I'm very eager to see exactly what particular petition or application is in court for them to stop BBC Africa to air this particular
expose
piece of in my view, as far as what I've seen on the grassroots level, we already have a few NGOs that are willing to not only get to give screenings on this particular piece of expose, but the government, in any sense, if they need to stop these NGOs from airing this piece of documentary, they need to serve every single every single NGO. In my sense, I can get to air the same documentary and have a few friends over in my house and we watch together. So I think it's going to be effort and futility. Yeah.
Ian, thank you so much for your contribution this afternoon. That is Mr. Ian Mutiso, they're the legal representative of the detained filmmakers. Well, they were detained with the latest update there on that story.